From the Home Slice News Center, this is the Daily Slice for Friday, January 26, 2024. I'm D. Ray Knight. This is what's going on. 2 men have been convicted in federal court in Rapid City for kidnapping an FBI specialist at gunpoint. The incident happened in May of 2022 in the Badlands when the 2 men stopped an FBI employee who had just left an unrelated investigation near Oglala, robbed him, and took him hostage at gunpoint. Juan Francisco Alvarez Soto of El Salvador and David Morales of Guatemala were found guilty Wednesday by a federal jury for several charges, including kidnapping, carjacking, and use of weapons. Alvarez Soto has ties to Rapid City. The FBI specialist escaped when Alvarez Soto and Morales stopped for gas. The pair then fled to Rapid City and eventually back to Colorado, where they were arrested. A man has been sentenced for drug dealing resulting in death. Amy Rose has the story.
A man charged with distribution of a controlled substance resulting in death was sentenced to more than 23 years in prison Wednesday. The factual basis statement for this case states that Wyatt Nygaard provided Michael Moore with fentanyl and that Moore died as a result of taking the drug. The statement finds that Nygaard knew Moore would ingest the substance and that Nygaard knew it was fentanyl. The mandatory minimum federal punishment for drug distribution resulting in death is 20 years. But Judge Jonathan Kobe's cited the severity of the crime in adding another 40 months to the sentence.
In news from the nation and the world, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel will continue to do what is necessary to defend itself, following a ruling from the top UN court that harshly criticized Israel's war against Hamas in the Gaza Strip. The International Court of Justice stopped short Friday of ordering a ceasefire in Gaza in a genocide case filed by South Africa, but it demanded that Israel try to contain death and damage in its military offensive in the tiny coastal enclave. Netanyahu rejected the genocide claims as outrageous and vowed to press ahead with the war. A Senate compromise on border security may collapse. Amy Rose has the details.
A bipartisan Senate deal to pair border enforcement measures and Ukraine aid forces a potential collapse. Senate Republicans are increasingly wary of an election year compromise that Donald Trump, the likely Republican presidential nominee, is calling meaningless. Senate negotiators have been striving for weeks on a carefully negotiated compromise on border and immigration policy. But even before the senators have had a chance to finalize the legislation and release it to their colleagues, election year politics and opposition from Trump are weighing it down. The dynamic could derail a plan to approve wartime aid for Ukraine, potentially leaving the country stranded without robust supplies of ammunition and missiles to fend off Russia's invasion.
A group of more than 4,700 auto dealers in the U.S. have sent a letter to President Joe Biden urging the president to halt regulators' efforts to require cars to emit less pollution. The Environmental Protection Agency is expected to finalize its proposed greenhouse gas rules in the coming weeks. This is the second letter dealers have sent to the White House in 2 months, and it calls the rules an electric vehicle mandate. Dealers say recent changes to EV tax incentives and charging infrastructure make it impossible to meet the EPA's targets. But the EPA says automakers could meet these goals with just 67% of new vehicles being electric by 2030. Your weather forecast from the Home Slice Weather Center. Partly cloudy and 51 today, low tonight 29. Saturday, sunshine and 57. Sunday, sunny and 61. And that was your Daily Slice for Friday, January 26, 2024. The Daily Slice is a production of Home Slice Media Group, hosted by D. Ray Knight with Amy Rose. Executive producer Mark Houston. Engineered by Chris Jaques. I'm D. Ray Knight. Have a great weekend.